This is Test Case Scenario with me, your host, Jason Baum. This podcast is the definitive hub for knowledge and stories in the software testing and development communities. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and let's dive straight into the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Test Case Scenario. I am one of your hosts, Jason Baum, and with me today we have Marcus Merrill, Evelyn Coleman, and Nikolai Avalokin. Hey everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
It's great to do this again with you guys. We are here. We've made it. We're in November already. Can you believe it? I mean,
Can you believe it?
Where'd that year go? Thanks, Nikolai. I can't believe it, personally. I feel like it was just June.
When did we start? How long have we been doing this?
We started the podcast in February, March, I want to say. I should know the answer to that question. I think it was February. We started so long ago that Marcus was in Texas. There you go. So we're coming up to the end of the year. We're coming up to all the holidays. Big one coming up next week, Thanksgiving, and figure, it's a little late, right, to have this conversation, perhaps for people to make any changes for this year. But figure we could have this conversation because it's an important conversation. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Prime Day, which already took place, and all the other big ones. Oh gosh, I forgot the big one that takes place that takes place in China. These are huge shopping days, and it's very stressful for the retailers out there. I spent some time in the retailer industry. If you see a retailer, hug a retailer, only if they let you hug them though. We kind of feel for them because as a retailer, your primary focus forever was your in-person experiences and, well, actually just having stuff, right? Selling it. Then it became, now you have to have an experience to shop here because people don't want to come to your store anymore. People want to sit at home, veg, and do it on their phone, which is great, for us as software developers and testers. But it's hard for the retailers. So then retailers had to create great experiences in person that are now very tech heavy, actually, and great experiences on mobile apps and browsers. So that kind of leads me into the conversation that we're going to have today, which is, Marcus, how do we help all of them?
I think it's important there's a lot of people who I think, and this happened to me. You come from one industry and then you go into retail and they're like, hey, cool, we work for an e-commerce company. And I came from healthcare or HR management, something like that. And then suddenly you're in this world where, guess what? Black Friday isn't actually a day off for you anymore. You actually have to come to work. And if the site goes down, it's all hands on deck. At one job I had, which I think I've said it before, I worked at Retail Me Not, retailmenot.com. It's on my LinkedIn and you can go there. It's a great site. They had people at 4 a.m, both for content management and for making sure that the site stayed up. And that's just the way Thanksgiving goes. Now, if you don't happen to necessarily love spending extra time with your in-laws, it's pretty great to have an excuse to go to work, go to the office on the Friday. But for most people, it's a lot of stress in that industry, and there is simply no getting around it. You have to do it. So how do we help them? Start testing early. Like we used to start Black Friday testing in July, making sure that the capacity was there and that we knew how to auto scale into it and all that stuff. And we can get into more of the details later, but like so far so good. I mean, what else do you think would go into something like that?
I mean, for me, I'm thinking that if you start as early as the summer, you still have a lot of website changes, potentially like front end changes for like Halloween, autumn, Thanksgiving. You might have deals and things going on for all the holidays between then. So are you saying you kind of separate and go, okay, so Black Friday is going to be a scaling load issue, and we're going to focus on that starting in the summer. And then the UI changes for everything else are going to be kind of visual issues, and you sort it out that way so you can test both issues in parallel? Or do you just do one at a time?
Well, I think the way we originally did things around 2013, 2014 was if you had a major architectural change that was going to alter anything about the structure of how data flows or the server architecture of how content is served up, you get those changes in the summer, and you have like usually a September 1st cutoff date. And if you have a major change to go after that, then that's, then you kind of have no choice. You're going to have to wait until probably after Christmas. So there was originally a 4-month code freeze, a 3-month code freeze, something like that. But then that leaves you with all sorts of, a blank canvas in terms of content. You can put all the content you want as long as, it fits within the confines of how things are supposed to work. You can edit the content all you need for Halloween and even, Thanksgiving. But I think that's one thing, is to have, essentially we had a code freeze. Now, eventually what we started doing, instead of having an actual code freeze, was so actually for the first couple of years I was there, it was great because you, as an automation engineer, you have time to sort of catch up. Hey, I'm going to write automation for all the features that were developed all year that I was behind on. Now I get a chance to catch up. Eventually I decided that's kind of dumb. It's, no company ever made a whole bunch of money by just paying off tech debt. So what we did instead was we would release major features behind feature flags, so that they were on and they were deployed, and the engineers were now able to work on something else, but they weren't public on the site. Possibly we'd run some A/B tests where you'd be able to slice in some traffic 1% or 2% to see if it would break, and then maybe roll out stuff like that. But in general, you can still keep developer momentum up, and then suddenly there's just a cascade of massive feature releases all in early January, that kind of thing. That was kind of the way we moved toward the end. No, not the end. I mean, they're still going. I just stopped working there.
Towards your end with them. Yeah. So how does the team prioritize which features or services to test the most rigorously, as Black Friday comes up?
Well, it's you look at revenue flow. You look at how does Retail Me Not make money? And the best way to do that, honestly, and I think we did a pretty good job of this, is actually not only asking how does Retail Me Not make money, how do our vendor partners make money? That's a referral site. We don't sell any products. There's no checkout, add to cart flow inside that product at all. So this is a little bit different from maybe a standard e-commerce play. Mm-hmm. And so it might be worth talking about the differences. But one of the really interesting things we found was I don't think that site has had a major outage on Black Friday or Cyber Monday since 2011 or something like that. I can't take credit for that. I wasn't involved in that part of the architecture or testing. I was always functional, not performance and load testing. I can't take credit for that, but it's a proud achievement for the whole group, because if that site goes down on Black Friday, you're costing yourself some ungodly amount. It is at least tens of thousands of dollars per minute. It might be more like hundreds of thousands per minute. Because there was a time when Retail Me Not's referral traffic represented something like 1% of all e-commerce in the United States on Black Friday. So 1% disappearing for 1 minute is a tremendous amount of money. So we refer all of these retailers to external companies like Macy's and other really named sites that you've heard of. We get a commission for kicking that traffic to them. And if our site goes down, obviously we lose out on the money. Here's the thing, though. If their site goes down, it costs us money. So we actually started to get into the business of consulting with our vendor partners on how they could do load testing as successfully as we did, so that they could ensure that their stuff keeps working during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And that became really interesting.
To me, two really critical aspects jump out when I think of an e-commerce site on Black Friday. If we think of a typical one like Amazon or most of them, the checkout flow has to work, and it has to work through a functional experience and the load experience. Those are, I think, the two things that will kill revenue on a Black Friday if it's not working well. So put all your efforts there and covering it from a functional perspective, from a load perspective. And I think almost the rest of the stuff is not that important. If you got those two main things covered, you're gonna have good success, I believe. I don't know. What do you all think?
Well, I was going to ask a follow up to that then. Yeah, because load makes sense. Obviously, that's probably the number one. So how do you simulate that behavior because for Black Friday? Because uh, I don't know. I feel like your normal numbers. I don't know where you would create that number. How do you anticipate Black Friday traffic?
The way we did it was we looked at the previous year's Black Friday or Cyber Monday peak, and we basically ran the kind of test. Once again, I didn't design it. I was in the room when it was being talked about. We basically said if there were X number of requests per minute, let's just say 1,000 requests per minute, which is a tiny number. Like that's not the number. We want to make sure that our servers can handle 5,000. We would take last year's traffic and say this was our peak burst traffic. So we played an ad on a major television network. People went straight to our website. We knew it was happening. Here's the peak traffic that caused. We need to make sure that our servers can sustain 5 times that traffic for a considerable amount of time, not just 1 minute, that kind of thing. It happened all the time when we would send out an SMS push that we originally started by sending out an SMS push to everyone at once, and that created this intense burst of traffic. And then we eventually learned, you know what, we could actually roll out those 4 million requests over a 2-hour period, and that will help not only with time zones but with the load on our servers. So you can sort of game this a little bit, but you can also make sure that like you don't want to have 5x capacity every day because that cuts into your margins and that costs a lot of money. But you definitely want to make sure that on your biggest volume day that you're not worrying about costs of cloud infrastructure on that day. Just have the capacity because it'll be murderous if you don't. There's another little trick that we had in place that we never needed on Black Friday, but we had other outages, brownouts, something like that over the course of the year. We actually had a static website that would get deployed automatically. If the main site went down, we would switch over to a CloudFront static site that had all these offers on it that weren't dynamic, but would still generate traffic and cash for us. And that was a really clever way of saying that, okay, money's still going to flow, even though it's not going to be super AI optimized for, up to the minute popularity of an offer, but it'll still bring in revenue and a pretty good clip, it turns out. So that was always there.
Did you all have auto scaling for your servers?
I actually don't know the answer to that. I have so funny for the Selenium grid that we ran, we did, but that's all. That's the only thing I ever architected. I think it's probable that parts of the site were dynamic. It's possible that all of them were. I truthfully don't know.
That would be interesting to see. That's always been my question. I've never done extensive load testing, but with auto scaling, like how responsive is it, and can it handle a 10x load? If your average load is 1 million users per day, and then on Black Friday you get 10 million or 20 million people, will auto scaling, for example, be able to handle that?
I mean, if I think auto scaling tends to take, I'm going to guess here, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, 30 to 90 seconds to really kick in.
Yeah.
You need to launch the extra Linux instances. They launch pretty quick, and I bet you that's even better now with Kubernetes and Docker. Back then, we weren't really using containers at that point. But it takes a little while to kick in. So you're going to lose a little bit right there in the burst, but it'll probably be able to stay up, and accommodate most of the requests.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. I don't think everything in the entire chain typically has, at least maybe for most companies, has auto scaling. I mean, like there's auto scaling at the same pace, right? So there's always going to be a bottleneck somewhere. Is it better to say, okay, this link in the chain has a bottleneck at, this is our slowest auto scaling link? Do we make the other one slower to compensate so we can keep the site up, even though we might have to limit some traffic? Or is it better to just like go for it and let it all run and try to scale as best as possible and try to capture every single click, because it could be fine? I guess there's like a pros and cons.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I wish I could have found someone from Retail Me Not to come and talk about this, because it's really interesting, but it just wasn't an area I was involved with so much. I was involved more with the blowback from other sites going down, and we had some issues sometimes, not just on Black Friday, but a lot of other times, where things like user analytics would misfire, and functional testing like that would be really interesting at the time.
That's what I wanted to hear next, was like, okay, so tell us about some of those stories. Like, and you don't have to name the names, but I'd be curious to hear, like, what did happen? What are some things that can happen on Black Friday, or have happened on Black Friday, and how did you solve those problems?
Well, I mean, I'm curious to throw that back at all of you. Also, have you seen this kind of glitch on Black Friday? But I remember trying to buy a particular game system from a particular electronics retailer for my kids at one point, and the site was just down, and I couldn't buy the site. And I also knew my company's losing money by the minute, because we're a pretty major supplier of traffic to that site. So I had to drive to the store at 5 o'clock in the morning, and nearly get into a fist fight with someone over a pink Nintendo DS. So it's one of the things you're going to do for your kids.
Okay, before we get into the glitches, I want to hear that's a good Black Friday story. I want to hear maybe, like, what's the craziest thing you've done on on Black Friday? Did you ever go out on Black Friday and buy something, and what was your experience like? And like, in the old, remember old school when you used to line up at 4 a.m? Do people still do that? I don't know.
I think they do. I think so.
Yeah. Why don't they just go online? Some people like that experience. For some people, it was like a like tradition. Like, I know, some people in their families, like, that was what they lived for. They would get up at 4 a.m. on a Friday. Not for me. I don't know.
Bring your billy club.
The only time I ever did that, my brother and I drove, gosh, an hour and a half to another town, because they were selling the Sega Dreamcast for, oh God, some ungodly low number. And we stood in line for the Sega Dreamcast, and we got it, and we were very, very happy with ourselves. Then we had to drive back, and that was less fun, but because we just wanted to turn it on.
Our friends from Brazil, I think, did something pretty crazy. Brazilians love to come to US and shop, because it's $1 is 5 of theirs, and so, like, when they come to US, technology and items are drastically cheaper for them. And so one time, some of our friends came to visit us for Black Friday, and then they left with my wife at like 10 p.m. to go to an outlet, and they stayed out until, I think, like 11 a.m. the next day shopping. Slept the night. I knew what it was about. I was like, I slept the night, woke up, had breakfast, and so on, and then they came back, and it was crazy.
You were in your, like, robe and your fuzzy slippers, and they're like walking in with bags.
Yeah, exactly.
I could picture it in my head with your glowing background.
And the best part is they bought everything. They'll buy, like, Twizzlers, because they never had a Twizzler, and I guess they always see it on TV, like in this whatever shows, and so they wanted to try a Twizzler, and they go to the $5 store and buy random things for $5 just because it's a bargain, and I found that funny.
It'd be funny if they did that on Black Friday. Do $5 stores have Black Friday deals?
It's only $1.
Yeah, exactly. No,
All
I
right.
don't know.
5 and below is now 2 and below on Black Friday. If they are not running that promo, you can steal that. Just give me credit.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Solid. Yeah.
I worked retail Black Friday. I think it was Black Friday. It was like I was working at Costco, actually, and I was folding clothes in, like, those tables where they have all of the clothes, and it's not like easy because it's piled really high and it has to be in a certain order, and the tables are really tall. I remember, I think they've adjusted them so they're a teensy bit shorter. But when I was working there, they were still very tall tables. And for the folks that are just listening in or have never seen me standing up, I'm 5 feet tall. I'm very short, and it's really hard on the arms. But I remember, I don't know if they were open Black Friday. It was like their big sale around Thanksgiving, and we prepped for a really long time, and people just came in and trashed the tables. I mean, the baby clothes on those like little hangers where it's like the teeny weeny jacket and the teeny weeny onesie and the little tiny denim pants. And they're just like ripping it off the hangers, seeing if it'll fit their kid, slapping it back on the table. And you are just trying to like fold everything again. And there's, I mean, Costco's huge. So there's like tons of tables. Things are sliding off the piles. We were absolutely ransacked. It was fun though. Work hard, play hard.
Did everybody, my first job was in retail too. Show of hands, did y'all work in first job in retail? No?
Movie theater.
Or a job in retail?
Yes.
Movie theater. Okay. Yeah.
Lifeguard.
My
You
parents
could start lifeguarding at 15.
Wow.
Which I'm like, is that legal?
Yeah.
How are we saving lives at 15 years old? It's like,
I would trust you, Nick. Knowing you, I would trust you.
I would trust Nikolai as a lifeguard.
but then there was many irresponsible lifeguards. I remember when we would have rain and thunder and they would shut down the pool. We would do crazy games like dive from a lifeguard chair into like 2 feet of water because we were lifeguards and had the skills, or we would make each other pass out. I don't know if you guys have ever done that by pushing on on a person's neck and holding them up against the wall until they lose air, and then you wake up.
I changed what I said about Nikolai. I do not trust Nikolai anymore with my life. No, I worked at Kmart, which was a retail outlet. Yeah,
Black light special.
that's the blue light special. Blue light special. Yeah.
Blackish light would come down from the.
I used to do the announcements because I worked front end and I was a front end manager. I worked my way up to front
Can
end
you give us
manager.
one? Can you give us an announcement?
Yeah.
Attention Kmart shoppers, we have a sale going on in the garden section. Yeah, and I remember there was fights over when we would have like the discount days. People would actually fight each other in the aisles. Yes, so retail gets very serious.
Well,
They sold
Toys
them
R
the
Us.
Martha Stewart brand, right?
Yeah.
Like that was
Yeah,
their
they did.
big thing.
Yes, in the housewares section or whatever we call domestics. It used to be called back in the day.
Toys R Us is making a comeback. It is time for Kmart. The time has come.
You think so? I went into a Kmart about 15 to 16 years after I worked in a Kmart, and their POS system was the exact same.
So they're ready for the internet. Which is what you're saying. They're ready for Y2K.
Finally. Yes. Yes. Yeah. We could talk about Kmart because Kmart's no longer with us, unfortunately. I really did like Kmart. It was yeah. But it's
Yeah, it was great.
talking about the POS systems and all those other things on Black Friday. There's more than just the app, right? And there's also cyber threats and all those other things. How do we test for that in advance? Because I'm assuming that everybody's licking their chops on Black Friday because that's when everybody's scrambling and you want to make sure your site's not crashing and all these other things. I would think that the opportunity is ripe for bad actors to come in and I don't know, is that something you could test for? And if so, how do you test for that?
There's one thing that comes to mind immediately, might be kind of an apocryphal story, but I believe it's true. I believe it because I've heard it more than once. Is a company that offers a promo code like like winter 20, winter 30. It's like, hey, winter promotion, 30% off. Well, sometimes those things are being parsed by algorithms using a regular expression that just pulls the number out, which means that you could say winter 100 and maybe get yourself a full discount. That has that has been something that we have advised people to test in the retail industry is like actually have a code that means something arbitrarily rather than something that where we'll be really smart about this and we'll make a promo code where you just put the number in there, and then they don't think the next logical step of like what would a 5-year-old do to try to get around this. So that's one thing I would advise. Don't do that. I can probably think of more. What, anyone else?
Nikolai, Evelyn, anything? No?
I do have one more. If you are working on a site that has affiliate links, which is kind of this referral thing where you got, other people love to steal those affiliate links and then sign up for their own kind of affiliate thing and then change the promo. So like you may have worked really hard with a vendor to get your own sort of promo code, and then somebody else can come along and just scrape the content, slot their own cookie in, and get the commission that you earned. What we did, this was not at Retail Me Now. This is at a different company that I was sort of talking to. What they did was they created something called a honeypot, which was they basically figured out when a robot would come and scrape their site, and they would feed them crap coupon codes that were actually not real at all. And so instead of scraping a site and getting, hey, I've got a promo code for Krispy Kreme donuts, it's more like you get 10% off at Mars tour site, something like that, where you're like, hey, trips to space. So something that's completely fraud. I'm having trouble not coming up with an example that's like R-rated, but like really give them some ads that are not real and would actually send them down kind of a bad path. We call that a honeypot. That was kind of a fun one. It's like you're not even really trying at that point to prevent the traffic. You're trying to understand it and route it to a place where it cannot harm you.
Well, wow. I didn't even know that was a thing. I have a question that I just thought of, and it's because we talk about AI quite a bit on this show, and gosh, who doesn't? Now with AI being more prominent in a lot of the software that's being tested, and I'm assuming retail is using AI more and more. What role do you see AI and automation playing in testing for Black Friday? How can we incorporate it? How can we use it?
Oh, I know.
Oh, good.
I mean, we all read that developers behaving badly blog, right? So let's say in theory, like in some situation, I had a friend, I'm just kidding. Let's say that something crashes on Black Friday or something doesn't hold up to the rigor of your testing. You could use AI to create a fix, slap that bad boy in without doing any kind of testing. Because AI always writes code that's 100% legit and never fails. And move on with your day. Go get your clicks again. Go get your money. That's my solution using AI for Black Friday.
There you go, Nikolai. What's yours? Oh, sorry, Marcus. Go ahead. You go.
Here's the deal. Put something that still allows you to make money on your 404 or 500 error page.
Ooh.
That's a good one. I like that.
When your site dies, really you still turn that into money.
Sorry you reached this page in error. Here's a 20% off coupon for this. I like that.
Best it would be to point toward the 20% coupon off towards like cloud hosting services or something like that.
Yeah. 5 and below. Take $2 off.
Y'all are creative. I just slapped the company's Venmo QR code right on the webpage and just see if anybody like sends money.
Please support our Patreon. We obviously don't know what we're doing.
Venmo us.
Kickstarter, get this website back up and running.
Do you want to buy this item? Please help us bring back our servers.
Yeah.
With your donation.
Nikolai, what about you? Anything?
I don't know if I have anything good for how AI would contribute to Black Friday. I don't have anything creative that I thought of.
Oh, you're the AI guy.
I was just gonna say he's of all of us, the AI.
I mean, there's so many directions to go with this that I don't know.
I would imagine, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that you could use AI to sort of help you craft a strategy around, like maybe it'll think of things you hadn't thought of for how to test.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point. You could use AI to help you craft a strategy, craft the tests, craft the messaging, to help you with A/B testing, craft the honeypot. You can use AI for crafting everything, including the Venmo messaging when your site goes down.
Oh boy. Any last thoughts on this? I mean, now after talking through all this, I really again urge you to go hug a retailer with their consent, and make sure you go out and shop for Black Friday. You know, do the good for the economy, and also your family and others who you're buying for. Um,
Make sure you
and
have a disaster recovery plan that you actually know will work.
yeah, that's a good question. So what is an example of that? Like what's a good disaster recovery plan?
I mean, that's a whole episode.
Well, I guess it's also depending on.
I forget, have we done an episode on chaos testing? Because that's related.
No, but you know what? Now we know what our follow-up episode's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of folks who know how to craft a plan that says, here's what we do in the event of a problem, but like they don't actually practice it or try it out.
Hmm.
And that's something that I think is pretty necessary, because there are sites, I don't have any examples off the top of my head. There's sites that have actually gone away and never come back as a result of disaster. Oh, I did think of one. An IoT stream I used to use all the time called Phant.io, Phant. I know why I'm giving the URL. It's dead. It's a dead project. It got overloaded one day, got DDoSed, and it has never come back. It's a great little IoT stream. And so
He just gave out his own Venmo, didn't he? Just it's a back end. That's what he did.
not in this case.
Don't give.
Don't follow the QR code on that thing.
Yeah. All right. This I just want to say, because this is our Thanksgiving episode, it's our Black Friday episode and our Thanksgiving episode. But I want to say just how thankful I am to each of you. You have made the past year incredibly enjoyable and wonderful, and it's just been an absolute pleasure getting to share the days that we record these together. I always look forward to the moments when we are recording episodes of Test Case Scenario, and then getting to share them with everyone else. And I just want to take this moment to say thank you to you, Evelyn, and Nikolai and Marcus, and also to say thank you to all the listeners for giving us your time. Time is the most precious thing you have in this world, and we are all just lucky for every single second that we get. And the fact that you've given us some of your own time means just the absolute world to me. So wanted to just say that and make you all cry.
Wow. Thank you, Jason. And thank you to our listeners. Thank you for all your patience as we learned about ChatGPT together. I'm sure if we go back and listen to some of our earlier podcasts, we said a lot of predictions that never came true, and we're just starting to get to learn the tools. Thank you personally. I know as the person on this podcast who has kind of the least amount of testing experience, no one has blown up my LinkedIn inbox with any kind of corrections or drama. I'm really grateful for every listener, as well as Jason, our wonderful host, and Marcus and Nikolai. Thank you all for being my colleagues for such a long time, by the way. I feel like Marcus and Nikolai and I go way back.
Yeah, I also just wanted to say, yeah, thanks to Jason, our host, and our amazing panelists, Evelyn and Marcus. It's been a beautiful year of getting to record these podcasts with you all and making deeper connections and learning a lot of things and teaching a lot of things, and getting to interact with our audience and hopefully providing them some value. And the fact that they do take their time to listen to us every 2 weeks, that's wonderful. So as Jason said, it's the most precious thing is time that we have. So yeah, thank you all. It's been a wonderful year, and to many more. This is only the beginning.
That's right. If I could thank each and every one of you with a slice of pie, I would absolutely do it.
That'd be awesome, and I would eat that pie very happily. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and we will see you in a couple weeks. And until next time, this is Test Case Scenario. Thank you for joining us on Test Case Scenario. Share your thoughts in the comments. We'll make sure to respond to each and every single one. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep in touch. If you missed our last episode, it's popping up on your screen right now. Go, click it. Until next time on Test Case Scenario.